The American iRacing Tuesday Series has flown under Bushfink Racing colors for 3 seasons now. Tonight, there will finally be a new palette of colors raised. Jasper Derlicka and Karl Modoff are set to lead the changing of the guard, but the question remains, which one will it be? Karl enters on the back foot with a huge mountain to climb. It will take some bad luck or major errors from Derlicka to offer a chance for the Club West driver to retake the points lead. We'll find out who will be crowned the new champion as we get ready to watch round 10 of the Precision Racing League's American iRacing Tuesday Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Taylor Burris. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Taylor, Sebring is no stranger to championships being decided because Formula One actually had their world championship decided here once. Tell us a little bit more, though.
Well, of course, and welcome everyone to Sebring International Raceway. Located in my home state of Florida, in Sebring, Florida, opened in 1950, this 3.7 mile or 5.9 kilometer is by far one of the pinnacle of endurance racing, as being one of the triple crowns for endurance within 12 hours of Sebring. Sebring is just by far a tricky but yet difficult and fun track to drive on that has challenged many drivers over the decades of its running here. To give you, the fan, to see what it is like to drive on this historic track, let's hop on board for a GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Amjad Yaman in the GSRC 4 GT, so let's do a lap around Sebring. Coming down the front stretch, the first corner is going to give you a really good idea of just how bumpy this track is. And this car can be a little shaky on entry into these fast corners, so expect any passing moves to be kind of hairy on both sides. Powering off this fast sweeper is important because now we approach turn 3, which is a popular place for overtakes. You can grab a lot of curb on the inside, but don't get too greedy because you can still knock the car loose on them. The racing line tends to reward a late apex here in 5 with how the curve tightens, but this is another place where it pays to be on the power early and with confidence. Big Bend is flat out, so this whole run acts as one long straight down to the hairpin. A lot of overtakes are going to happen with the heavy braking into this sharp right-hander, but it's also very easy to overcook your entry. Watch out for how the track weaves back and forth on the exit, and then try your best to straighten out 8 and 9. There's no lifting, it's all about just minimizing your steering inputs. But hold to the left because coming up is the braking for Cunningham. This is another place where you can expect a lot of passes, but it's also another place where the curb to the inside is a bit tall and can be nasty depending on how hard you hit it. Same with the run here through Collier. Don't get greedy on those curbs because the Armco is right there to collect you. The braking for Tower requires you to flirt with the edge of the track, and sometimes you'll see cars spin off when they dip a wheel into the dirt. A lot of dust and gunk is going to get dragged onto the track when drivers go wide in the exit as well. Bishop is flat out, so just try to round out these 2 apexes and then hold the car off to the left for the best line into Jean Debian. It's important to keep on the racing line through here so that you can set up wide for Le Mans. This is perhaps the most critical corner on the track because it dumps you onto the Ullman Straight, which is the longest acceleration zone of the circuit. Even if you get a good exit, your competitors might be able to grab onto your slipstream and get a run towards sunset. But I wouldn't recommend trying to go through here too wide. It's incredibly bumpy, and the curved braking makes the car very unsteady. Square off this exit so that you can really put the power down. Be careful not to drift into the grass on the left, and then, as you cross the line, you've now finished a lap around Sebring.
That lap should give you an idea of just how bumpy it is around this course for the drivers, and we'll get all more sorts of views on that as it'll be a major talking point throughout. But one major talking point this whole season has been the sponsor, of course, and that is SIMMSA. The Simulation MotorSports Association is a sim racing platform created by experienced racers. Established in 2015, the association is bringing together organizations and communities to further promote sim racing globally. Concentrating on all sims worldwide, they offer a focused opportunity for sim racers to compete with each other. They also provide consultancy services to this growing eSports world. SIMMSA offers solutions for racing simulator requirements, custom-built simulator parts, complete customization, and upgrading of existing simulators. You can find them at SIMMSA.net. Definitely give them a look when you get a chance. Open another window if you have to while you're watching this broadcast. Just make sure you put it in a different monitor so you can keep an eye on this. Now, let's take a look at the championship situation, because that is all important coming into this being the final round. Look at that, 10 points between Modov and Derlicka. And the good news is, it's a little bit simpler for our viewers. You can see the drop point, that little droplet means that there's no drop points for Derlicka. Modov has them, but obviously it's not as important, or at least we don't expect it to come into play. That means that no matter what, when all is said and done, Modov has to outscore Derlicka by at least 11 points, because if they tie, Derlicka has more wins, so he will win in the event of a tie today. Perez is mathematically out of it, we believe, at 20 points back, since he does have to beat Karl Modov, and the 25 points in his pocket means that he wouldn't be able to overcome Modov. Same thing with Whalen and Eisler from 3rd, 4th to 5th. We have a teams championship, which is just as important in this series. Taylor, what are we looking at teams-wise? Because drivers really do want to try and grab that.
Yes, of course. The teams championship is still very important for these teams and drivers. But right now, it is still Team Bushfink Racing with Perez and Eisler leading by 181 points over the Andes iRacing Puma team of Kita and Vargas. There's still some droplets, as you notice right there, drop points for them to utilize. Unlike for Fury SimSport with Harwood and Janowski, who've been doing quite well, moving 3 positions up to the 3rd position. And then, of course, tied for 4th position is Team Tortuga with Derlicka, as well as SDS Racing Team with Carini and Sorelli. Those two have tied with Team Tortuga with 208 points back from the leaders. So this championship is really heating up a little bit, but I think Bushfink might have it. But Joe, why don't you tell us a little bit more about tonight's race?
Absolutely. Tonight's race is going to be relatively simple. It is 45 minutes long with 1 scheduled pit stop. And if you're used to these GTE cars in real life, you might be wondering why in a 45-minute race they would need to stop. Well, they've limited the fuel compared to what the real cars can take in that tank, hence why they have to take a stop. They physically cannot make it to the end. Now you see there's 3 different makes of these GTE cars that are available to the drivers. They can't switch throughout the season. They have to choose between the Porsche, the Ferrari, and the Ford. They do have an incident cap at 30, which means they will be disqualified if they hit those 30 incidents during this race. They will immediately be removed from the track by the sim. And those incident points will also affect how they take the points. We'll try and cover that in a bit. It's a little bit complicated. It'll be a little hard to follow, and some of it we actually won't know until that checkered flag flies. Before we get to that, let's go back to Taylor one last time. Taylor, this is going to be all important today for Modov. What are the keys to the race?
Well, of course, it's going to be take care of this car. This track is very unforgiving to cars here on the track because it's just so bumpy. So drivers are going to need to be careful to maintain their car. Watch out for those heavy bumps, especially going through Sunset Bend. If you actually watch on some of these cars and in the lap guide, you actually see the car bouncing through the corner as it makes the turn. So you have to make sure you keep the car and nose pointed in the right direction. Another thing is going to be strategy. Modov and Derlicka are going to need to figure out what would be the best strategy, especially when it comes to pit stop cycles, on when to start and make their moves on that matter. Sometimes drivers might make the pit stops and then immediately lap after. That same driver might even try another strategy to try and pull away from the competition. And then finally, lap traffic may be a factor here tonight. Drivers will need to keep their eyes open, watch out for any competition coming up, especially for our 2 championship leaders, because that could be a major impact as we've seen in the past here in this series alone.
Yep, there's drivers who are only looking for the win here today, and that could shake things up incredibly. Ben Perez still looking for his first win this season. Same thing with William Whalen, has not won yet, and he was looking like he would surely get one by now. 9 rounds in. This is the 10th here today. But then we also have some fast drivers who have surprised towards the end. Montini has yet to win one. He could take one, Federico Montini. As well, don't forget last round's winner, Christian Eisler. He's found pace. Again, also out of the championship. Could he spoil things and maybe shake things up, affect the championship? He really has no horse in the race between those two. All he wants to do is just try to win here today. Now, if you're wondering how the finishing positions need to be just between our 2 championship rivals, it is a 10-point difference. So First place before any bonus points is 35 points. That takes us down to 7th for 24 points, which if Modoff wins, those 35 points will need that 11-point swing of 24 points for 7th place. Jesper has to finish 7th or lower before the bonus points to let that first place switch hands between them. Now, the bonus points, those are 1 point for fastest lap of the race. Again, won't be settled until the checkered flag flies. 1 point for 3 incidents or less. We can't know that ourselves until this race is over. We'll find out and we'll try to report to you once everybody crosses the line. And this one will be settled right now. What we're watching, which is qualifying, there is a bonus point for pole. Taylor, I am very curious about this because Modoff right now is sitting in the right position for that, but boy, is it tight between himself and his rival.
Yes, indeed. Right now, Modoff has a 154.73. About 3 or 4 tenths back is Drlicka. So it's going to be very tight. Drlicka needs to set a lap time probably within the next lap or so because time is running out for him.
Yeah, and you know, I said that, and then I looked at the times, and I was like, whoa, that has changed since I last looked because it was half a tenth before. Now it's actually 4 tenths. So Modoff has set himself quite a lot safer, but you're right that Drlicka has been trying to maybe just get himself a little bit of clear track, has mostly been going slow for a lot of these laps, and he's actually, well, yeah, I thought he might have been pulled to a halt. He's going very slow right now as we just watched Whalen finish his lap. This is Modoff. Or excuse me, Modoff that we're looking at right now. He's getting ready to finish his lap. He is on a slow one, though.
I think he might be pulling it in.
Eisler's coming across. He gets to Sunset Bend. You can tell a little bit of an overcast day today. So very grippy conditions, mercifully, for these drivers. They won't be slip-sliding around. Eisler crosses the line, but this lap is not faster. He does not improve on that 5th place. We're looking at Ben Perez. Now, this is what's interesting. This one doesn't count for Ben, but look at the difference in time between Drlicka and Perez here, Taylor.
That's impressive of what Ben Perez is able to do to keep up with the championship points leader. Of course, Ben Perez, a 3-time champion, and unfortunately won't be defending his title here tonight, but still quite a achievement he's been able to do this season of able to try and take the fight to the drivers of Modoff and Drlicka.
Absolutely. He'll be second on the second row. He is 1/1000th behind Drlicka right now. He could easily jump to the front row with just a slightly better lap. Let's see about 4th place, though. He could spoil the party. Federico Montini, again, has been fast, but has not had the results. He does not go faster. 156.2 last time by for the Hispano-American driver. Drlicka now has a chance to try to cut down that 4/10 second of a gap as he comes to the line. This should be a slow one, though. Oh, did he get it across soon enough? Is he going to be able to start this next lap? That's what's going to be important. Is he slowing? Oh, well, now he's definitely going to be done because that is it for him. So no better than 2nd place for Jesper Drlicka, but he will be on the front row with his championship rival. This is Christian Eisler and his teammate Ben Perez there in the Porsche you see in the background. We mentioned before it was bush paint colors for 3 seasons. Well, that was Ben Perez who flew those colors. And under the bridge of Sunset Bend, let's see what 5th place Christian Eisler can do, Taylor. As he crosses the line, he jumps up to 4th, right behind his teammates, Ben Perez. Oh, up to 2nd. Jesper Drlicka gets demoted down to 3rd. That could have championship effects. Who else left to finish now? Our championship leader, Karl Modoff. He has the pole, and it's by about 3/10 over Perez. Could he extend that lead? It won't really do much except be a psychological blow to Jesper Drlicka. Last one across the line does not count, so he does not improve. Who is left to run? That's it. That is all of our drivers have completed their laps. Modoff's the only one out there running right now. And since we just watched him cross the line, let's go through our starting order. Karl Modhoff, as we mentioned, on the pole, and 3/10, which is actually a decent margin over Ben Perez, who's going to be flanking him. Jesper Derlicka will be right behind the driver that he is trying to beat to the championship. It's actually not too bad of a starting position for him because remember, he has to finish 7th place or lower to lose the championship if Modhoff wins. Christian Eisler starts 4th. He was the first one other than Derlicka and Modhoff to win this season. Only 3 drivers have taken the top spot. Federico Montini starts 5th behind Eisler with Francisco Montini. Both Montinis together on the 3rd row there. William Whalen starts in 7th behind them with Cristobal Valenzuela starting 8th. Daniel Pinto. Oh, I'm sure he'd love to finally get a win this season. He took a couple last season, but it has just not been the case here with no wins this season so far, starting 9th. Michael Derby will be finishing out the top 10. Taylor?
Starting in the 11th position is Jean Carini, followed by Mr. Consistency, Aaron Thacker in that 816 Ford. Pete Mabroten in the Fluffy Kitty Ninjas Porsche will be starting in 13th. Alongside him will be Justin Hall in 14th. James LeBlanc will be starting in 15th, followed by Hugo Galaz in 16th. Karsten Quint in 17th. Mr. Where Did He Come From? Takeshi Kida will be starting in the 18th position, followed by Thomas Ellison in 19th, and Lucio Vargas will round out your top 20.
Last 2 cars to put a lap in were Maxi Sorella starting 21st, and then Gary Schilling rounds out the field. All 22 cars managed to get lap times in. Now, what this does mean for the points is it does not go to 0 down here. 22nd place does get 9 points. So if both of our championship leaders have something happen to them, that is something to keep in mind. We're hoping that's not going to be the case. We hope we see battle up towards the front and it goes down to the wire. I am very excited to watch this race unfold, though. It's it might be leaned heavily in favor of Derlicka this week here, Taylor. But we saw last week that really even the slightest of moments could have an effect, because we saw Modhoff up towards the front fighting at Sonoma, and then one little incident set him all the way down the order and put him in the position he's in now.
Yes, of course. So Modhoff is definitely going to have to be very careful. Make sure he hits his marks throughout the race. You have to go 110%, but also make sure that he does not have Derlicka get by him in any way or shape or fashion, and hopefully Derlicka, for Modhoff's sake, falls back inside the top 10. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, because I'm looking forward to this race. It's a championship race. This season's championships have just been dramatically amazing to watch. Some new faces come out into this series. So, Joe, let's get ready for some fun here in South Florida.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Just waiting for the pace car to take off now. And there goes the roof pace car to lead them around for the rolling start. Now, you say 110%, Taylor. So do you think that means it's basically all or nothing for Karl, that like he's just got to go for it? Or, I mean, if you were in his shoes, what's your approach coming in here?
Well, first and foremost, I would definitely be trying to go for that win, as well as try to go for fastest lap and try to be as clean as possible throughout this race. You need to get as many points as you can, and hopefully try to make the right strategy call in order to keep Derlicka behind you. And hopefully, if Modhoff has a little bit of fortunate luck, he might be able to win this championship. It's going to take a lot for him, though.
Yep. So, again, assuming, well, we know that for sure a bonus point will be going to Modhoff, since he did take pole. Now, if no bonus points go to Derlicka, it now means 6th or better that he has to finish. But we could still yet see more bonus points for either of the championship drivers. And apologies if this is all confusing, but we will try to keep you up on it as the race goes on. They come down now to the hairpin. One of those places I've seen a lot of accidents unfold, not just under braking, but here, this weird little wiggle they have coming out of the corner, Taylor.
Yeah, that hairpin is very difficult, especially on corner exit. The car gets real loose if you don't hit your mark. Also, you have to be careful of not going over those curbings and into the grass. That can cause a lot of issues for the car, whether you get loose or cause issues to the splitter or damage to the suspension. So drivers are going to need to keep it on the pavement here tonight in order to have a good finish.
And speaking of the pavement, what about the curbs that are flanking a lot of these corners? Because I know in a lot of cars, I've had trouble around Sebring because there's some really tall ones, particularly I know there's some here in Collier as they're going through now that can upset some cars. Are these GTE cars pretty compliant, or do they need to kind of keep their eyes out and not get too greedy on some of these curbs?
On corner exit, they should be okay on the curbing. Now, when they're going into corner entry and hitting the apex, they might need to be a little bit careful as they're making their way up to the Flying Fortress straight. Those areas of the curbs are okay to use because we'll see a lot of drivers use that curbing to try and get some time in or gain some positions. But right here, as we make our way towards Lamont curve and all these in this section right here, this is an area that you really have to be careful with. The car gets very light through this section of the track, and drivers are going to have to be so careful to place their cars and also keep an eye on when it gets too loose, know when to try and keep it in control.
Absolutely. Now through Le Mans onto the Ullman Straight, and well, we've seen for most of the season that the draft is not terribly powerful in these cars. Well, at least not effective, I should say. This Ullman Straight's pretty long. Is it going to do something here?
It could help a little bit on certain aspects, and of course we've seen it's going to help maybe with saving fuel for these cars. We've seen that time and time again throughout the season, how cars utilize the slipstream to save fuel. So we'll definitely be seeing that here, especially on the Ullman Straight.
All right, well, they've now finished that Ullman Straight, and it's into the very difficult Sunset Bend. So many races have gone awry through this bumpy right-hander on that old pavement, the original pavement that they're still running on. The pace car is now in, and it's a very bad start for Ben Perez off across the start-finish line here for round 10. Karl Modov clearly in the lead, and that's bad news for him that Perez has a bad start because Durlicka slots into second immediately as they hit turn 1. Seeing if there's any sort of incidents. I'm not seeing anything, Taylor. This looks like a clean start.
So far, but we do got a battle for that 4th position. This is going into turn 2 near Gurney Bend. We have a battle between Eisler, Whalen, and Montini. Those three are battling it out for that 5th position.
And look at the gap that it is causing between Perez in 3rd and Montini in 4th. Montini comes out the head of those 3, Whalen in 5th and Eisler in 6th. Not for long, though, maybe, as he takes a look down to the inside. He does get his nose in, but can't quite get the power off the corner. That swings back in favor of Billy Whalen, who keeps that 5th place, but they continue to lose time on the podium spots. I just saw Justin Hall suddenly slipping down the order. Did something happen to him? Missed it. We'll try and check into that a little bit later. Drivers now working their way out of Tower and Collier. Most of them single file, thinking long term here. It may be a 45-minute race, which isn't terribly long, but still plenty of laps to think about and find some opportunities. Into Jean Debienne, our top 3 go. And heading to the Ullman Straight for the first time. Let's see if anybody's got anything for one another. Building their speed as they head towards Sunset Bend. Look at that 2nd pack just weaving back and forth, trying to break the draft. That was Montini, who managed to hold off Whalen, but just barely.
Oh, Whalen's going to try to stick his nose underneath. Can't really do that. You got to be careful because Montini decided to shut the door right on Whalen coming out of Sunset Bend. Got to be careful and keeping an eye on making sure you don't get too close to that wall, because a simple scrape or a simple knock of that wall can cause some serious damage.
And once again, Whalen just taking a look at every corner on Montini. Again, he's only looking for a win here today, so he does not want to lose contact as he continues to just poke and prod and harass the Hispano-American driver.
It looks like it seems like Montini is holding up Whalen. Whalen seems to be a little bit faster right now as he looks to the inside, makes a move into the hairpin.
Tried this.
Great pass.
Yeah, tried this last time, but now he's got it pulled off as he's able to cut off the exit. and prevent any sort of good acceleration from Montini. Now move William Whalen up to fourth. Let's see if he's got an opportunity. Oh, as he comes back at him. Montini not giving this one up by any stretch of the imagination, but he can't quite pull it off. Now through Collier, I think Whalen is finally safe, at least for a moment.
Yeah, a little bit of take a break for a few minutes before go back at it again. You got to stay on your A game throughout the race, especially with this being the last race of the season. Drivers wanting to make sure they put a nice finishing result before the season's out to try and get ready for the new season. So definitely Montini wants to try and get by Whalen to improve and have a good closeout to the season.
Now, as we go back to just in front of P8, I think Daniel Pinto in a nice little fight with Christian Eisler. These two were fighting for the championship last season. Now it's mostly just squabbling for scraps. They hit Sunset Bend, and it looks like Pinto's Sailor's car not going to be able to overtake Eisler for now. Now, I do have an update on Hall. We don't need to go to a replay of him because actually it was his connection that went bad. He is still running in 16th. The reason that he slotted down the order is because he was gone for so long. Oh, second place. Getting close, and that's Derlicka and Perez, who aren't actually that far back off of Modoff either, Taylor.
No, Perez got a little bit loose, though, coming out of the Gurney Bend, so he had to check up just a little bit in order to make the corner, but gets right back on it to the back bumper as they make their way to the hairpin.
Yeah, Modoff right now, he is the biggest fan of Ben Perez because he wants him to try to take this position away from Derlicka. As long as Jesper is right behind him, Modoff knows that he's losing this championship no matter what he does.
Notice Derlicka is applying pressure to Modoff, but really not pushing the envelope like you would expect. He knows if he just runs in this top three right now, he is safe to win the championship by the looks of it here tonight. So, but he's still wanting to keep Perez behind.
We had a change for fourth. Christian Eisler has now overtaken Montini. Federico slowly moving his way backwards. Not the way that he wants to go for sure. But that does put Christian safe from Daniel Pinto for the moment, as he's put a car between the two of them.
Right behind Daniel Pinto, we have Francisco Montini and Jean Carini. They've been slowly closing in on this battle up in front of them, little bit by little bit. So pretty soon we could have about 5 cars battling for the top 5 as Montini looks to the inside of Eisler.
And I think he's got it, actually, into Sunset Bend. Very brave stuff by Federico Montini. And he gets the position back. That's the second time we've seen that where Montini loses a spot and he immediately has an answer for the challenging car. Eisler, however, is going to try to come back at him into turn 1, but just not enough braking. And it looks like he's going to have to do this all over again. Watch from his view as he tries to take it back from the number 5 car. This is Ferrari versus Porsche. They come through Big Bend and a little bit better of an exit for that Porsche.
This is a Porsche track. These cars is tight, twisty, turny. Not a whole lot of straight line except for the Ullman straight. So a lot of drivers like to utilize the Porsche on this track because of those tight corners and a lot of the rhythm section. The Ferrari is good here as well and will do well on the straightaways such as Ullman. And of course the Ford is a little bit more balanced out on the matter. So it's really good to see how these 3 cars on certain parts you see them dominate in one section or another.
Back in 9th place, Jean Carini. We talked about him a little bit. Well, it's Michael Derby. Oh, almost getting into him, locks up the brakes, doesn't make the apex, and that means that Cristobal Valenzuela is now on the attack for that HJ Motorsports car. Looks like he's not going to get an opportunity right now, but as they break for Jean Dembien, could be setting him up for a run onto the Ullman Straight.
Good heads-up driving by Derby not to run into the back of Carini.
Oh, yes, sorry to interrupt. Battle for the lead. Battle for the lead, and Jesper Durlicka has now overtaken Karl Modoff. Modoff might lose another position because here comes Ben Perez sticking his nose into Sunset Bend. Could this be 2 positions lost? The inside stays with Karl Modoff right now as they come up to turn 1. He could still yet rebuff the former champion as they come around that fast corner. Oh, almost runs into him, and Ben Perez has to back out of it. Ooh. Well, this is not good news for Karl because now it absolutely is in favor of Durlicka, because if he wins, there's certainly no way that Karl could win this. Down into the hairpin one more time. Modoff still slightly under threat. That battling did allow William Whalen to close in slightly, but the number 3 car sitting in P4 still has a few seconds to try to regain on these top 3. This is certainly not going the way that Modoff would have wanted. He did take pole. He was looking strong, but I am slightly surprised that Jesper has had such a good start. And look at this. Oh, challenge for second now, as Modoff is having to defend off Perez for the second time in 1 lap.
Perez applying a lot of pressure. They're coming down out of Le Mans, down the Ulman Straight. That Busch Porsche is definitely hot on the tail of Modoff. Going to utilize a little bit of the slipstream, try to maybe pull him in a little bit before they get to Sunset Bend. But Perez wanting to try to get in front of Modoff right here and right now.
Only 10 minutes into this race, and we've already seen Jesper Durlicka not only take the lead, but start to pull away. And if you're just joining us, you might be wondering if Perez isn't in the championship hunt, why is he fighting so hard? Well, again, this 3-time champion has yet to win this season, so he is hungry. He has only one thing on his mind, and that is to win this race, to keep himself from going out as champion completely winless, which is a bit of an embarrassing way to change hands. Down through Big Bend they go. This is settled down just a bit, so let's jump a little farther back in the field. There has been an ongoing battle between Valenzuela and Carini that we saw start up. This is for 10th position. And following behind Michael Derby, who Carini was challenging before. It seems like he's not been able to regain the ground very easily. Carini's still trying to keep the Andes driver at bay.
Yeah, Valenzuela trying his best, applying pressure to Carini right now. He did fall back multiple spots early in the race after starting in 8th, so he is trying to get onto the climb to work his way back up. I tell you what, a big mover right now is the driver right behind him who's closing in is Thomas Ellison. Starting in the 19th position, has worked his way up to 12th and is not done. He's got his eyes set on both Valenzuela and Carini.
Yeah, that is a nice climb from the New Yorker. And in fact, he's got some help if he needs it, because Aaron Thacker in the other HJ Motorsports car is waiting to also try and take advantage. We ride on board with Ellison right now, who closes in a little bit more on Valenzuela up through Sunset Bend. Tries to get the power down off this bumpy corner, but they're all going to stay in order. And that is Carini 10th, Valenzuela 11th, and Ellison 12th. Down towards turn 3. You can see that Aaron Thacker Taylor starting to close a little bit more every corner.
Yes, he is. He's closing in. That last lap by, he ran a 1:57.0, so he's a little bit off from Ellison, who ran a 1:56.5, but still faster than the 2 drivers in front of Ellison of Valenzuela and Carini, about 3/10 faster, as a matter of fact. So,
we need to go to second place right now because here comes Ben Perez down to the inside, and I think he's got it done this time. He's been working on that for a couple laps now. Finally, the three-time champion finds himself in second place. Now, I wonder, Taylor, is he fast enough to try to chase down Durlicka?
looking at the times right now, he's about 3/10 off from the leader that last lap. Durlicka ran a 55.7 compared to Perez's 56.0, so it's going to need a little bit of help by the looks of it, but I think Perez could close the deal, given a little bit of help.
All this happening in front of fourth place Whalen, who has not closed in fact, lost a little bit of time. It is 3 seconds between Modoff and Whalen at this point. Watch from on board Perez there for a moment, looking back at Modoff, and you really couldn't even see much of Whalen in the background.
No, Whalen is pretty much out of view for a majority of this right now. He's trying his best to close in on the gap. I know Whalen's had an up and down season, wants to end on a high note, but it's going to take a lot of help from Whalen in order to get a good...
Ooh, some action happening down in 11th. Valenzuela and Ellison in a fight. Remember, Valenzuela was trying to challenge Carini. Well, now his eyes are firmly in the mirror. Look at the much tighter line on entry for Thomas, but doesn't necessarily mean a better exit. He still pokes his nose out anyways. He's late on the brakes, tries to stay out of the back of Valenzuela. Somehow doesn't run into that rear bumper, but boy, is this one on.
Yeah, Mike. Thomas Ellison is trying his best to close the deal. They're coming out of the Gurney bend down towards the hairpin they go. Looks like Valenzuela got a good, better run off, but let's see what happens down at the hairpin. We've seen Ellison get late on the brakes. His teammate Thacker now gets hard onto the brakes right behind him. It's a good thing they're teammates, otherwise it would have been a much more different issue we could have seen behind him.
Yeah, definitely. Although HJ Motorsports guys are certainly not against racing each other, but I'm sure Thacker going to get a little bit of time for Ellison to try and do what he can on the Andes machine just to see if he can get by first. But he won't want to be held up long. Now they come towards Tower. Still Carini not able to stretch away from Valenzuela. This is starting to become something of a train, Taylor.
Yeah, a little bit of a train building up right now amongst these cars. So give it a little bit of time, especially when we get down the Ullman Straight. We might see it tighten up just a little bit. But also got to watch out for the accordion effect for these drivers, especially in those high brake zones to where a lot of drivers will utilize the brakes. In case we see a stack up, we have to be careful and keep their heads up on that matter.
Carini using every bit of the track and then some, dipping wheels off into the grass, but it didn't hurt him. Instead, it's Valenzuela, who's now got Ellison poking his nose out, coming down into Sunset Bend. He was way far back. I didn't think that was ever going to happen, but he still manages to get in there. Almost gets 2 for 1 as he tries to stay out of the back of Carini. But a beautiful job by Thomas Ellison, so confident on the binders into that very, very tricky corner.
I tell you what, that Porsche is on rails tonight. Thomas Ellison really putting on a good show. Must have just not had the right qualifying setup set up for Ellison. Starting in 19th, now has gained 8 positions. And we're not even, a little over halfway through the race.
Yep, still climbing farther and farther forward. Now that that's settled down for just a minute, we'll go back to it if it erupts once again. I've been kind of thinking about what's happened between Modoff and Durlicka. Modoff's now down to third. Durlicka is stretching away from him. He's about 2 seconds ahead of that third place driver. If you're Modoff, again, put yourself in his shoes, Taylor. Is it worth doing something radical? Maybe pitting very, very early in hopes it'll change something? Because on pace, it looks like Modoff just doesn't have anything for Durlicka. So is it getting dire enough that he really has to try and throw a wild card into things?
I would say maybe not yet at the moment, but there's something Modoff needs to consider doing, and that is do the exact opposite of what Durlicka's doing. So if Durlicka is going to stay out, Modoff needs to pit early. If Durlicka decides to pit early, Modoff needs to stay out. Tire wear has not been a major issue for a lot of these drivers throughout the season. It's basically going to be who needs the least amount of fuel put in their car to complete this race.
Right on board with Durlicka. It's going to be very difficult for him to overcome, I think, the Scott Dixon Jr., if you will, out there leading the race, because Derlicka has been the master of fuel in every single one. But Modov seems to be answering. He just set the fastest lap of the race from that third position.
Yeah, just because Modov is in third position doesn't mean he is giving up at the moment. He is going to still try to give it 110% to get back up into the lead.
And indeed, he's staying on the back of Ben Perez. So Perez may have overtaken him out there, but it seems like Carl isn't so slow that he's going to lose touch with that #1 car. He could still keep him under pressure and maybe force an error, Taylor.
He could apply that pressure needed. Of course, Perez being the 3-time champion, very difficult to apply to where causing pressure to where it makes a mistake. So it has to be.
And we got a battle for 7th going on, and this is between Pinto and Montini. And just want to report, we don't need to go to it or get a replay, but we had an early pit stop with James LeBlanc. That was because he made contact with a tire barrier. I suspect that damage caused him a little bit of an issue trying to make it back because he was very slow.
Also like to report, Thomas Ellison now was able to get by Jean Collini a little bit. We don't need to go to a replay, but has finally broke inside the top 10 and now has his eyes set on his teammate, Michael Derby, both of them in Porsches.
Right on board with Francisco Montini, still giving chase to Pinto's Porsche. I'm still a little bit surprised by Daniel Pinto's season. He was so strong. He was a challenge for Ben Perez in a lot of races. And this time around, he hasn't even been on the pace of Perez. I mean, what do you think happened between last season and this one to Pinto, Taylor?
To be honest, I really don't know. I mean, he's in the same car that he drove. To be honest, I don't know. I cannot really figure out why he has been off pace this entire season. So it's got to be something that has to do with either a setup that he could not figure out or something with equipment-wise maybe. But that's the only things I can think of.
Maybe he just doesn't have the same amount of time to practice this season. Life does change, and sim racing a little bit different from real racing in that you have a lot more time to get in the car, and that could make a difference out there. But he's being hounded right now for that 7th spot by Francisco Montini. Daniel yet to win one this season. It doesn't look like he's going to go out on a win here in round 10 at Sebring. We're down to 24 minutes left to go as we jump to 15th position, farther back in the pack. This is Maxi Sorella and Lucio Vargas in a nice little fight. Vargas racing for one of the Andes teams. He's got one of his teammates close behind in the form of Takeshi Kita.
Yeah, Takeshi not really having a good night, only P17 right now. Of course, pit stops have not happened, so something may change for Takeshi. But right now, Lucio Vargas all over the back bumper of Maxi with that Ferrari in front of him. Putting on a good show tonight, still running decent, consistent. That team of Andy's racing team has been doing quite fun, seem to watch, and always puts on a good show towards the back of the pack.
Now, something, it was a connection problem. I was going to say, Gary Schilling, I saw was gone for a while, and then he suddenly reappeared in the pits, and I just noticed we got a note that his connection went out, and he's just recently reconnected, so that has sent him down the order. That means LeBlanc, Schilling, and Galaz have all had issues that have them sitting with their pit crews instead of being out there pounding the pavement. We have had no scheduled stops so far yet.
Yeah, one of the things that is the biggest issue here on... Oh, we got some...
Yeah, sorry. My words just have to be eaten right now because we just saw Lucio Vargas come in. This does look like a scheduled stop since we're just past halfway now.
So this will be the time to see what happens with our leaders. Are they going to decide to pit early or stay late into the race? But again, back to that issue.
I'm sorry, back to the issue what?
Back to the issue about issues for as far as connection. That's going to be the main issue a lot of drivers face on iRacing, is that not really of engine failures or car difficulties, but actually it's going to be connection issues that drivers face the most compared to real-world racing, where an actual engine may blow or other parts may fail.
Right now on screen, you are looking at not only your championship leader, but the leader in the race, and possibly the one who will come away with the crown for the first time in, I guess, technically 4 seasons. It depends on how you want to count it. Oh, way big off, all the way off into the grass for Jesper. That's certainly not going to bring it home for him.
No, and that helped bring in Perez a little bit, not a whole lot, but this will throw into a little bit of a factor.
Yep, that gap has gone down to about a second to Ben Perez. So not able to really go on the attack on Jesperoni, but certainly closing it in, as you said. Oh, and Daniel Pinto having to change of positions. This is with Montini, who has been hassling him. It is for 7th position, and I think Francisco's got it done. Was through sunset, Ben. Let's take a look at the replay and see exactly how this unfolded. I think this started on the Ullman straight with a good draft. Yeah, there you go. Just tucked in behind him, Taylor, and then once he got a nose inside, I think Pinto decided discretion was the better part of valor.
Yes, indeed. Very clean racing between the two. Pinto realized that Montini had the line going into sunset and decided to let him have the position.
So while that changes spots, oh, did Valenzuela have a problem? He lost a... Oh, yes, he did. This was coming out of turn 5, out of Gurney Bend. Let's take a look at the replay. He was being chased by Aaron Thacker.
Really lost control of the car.
Yeah, he did. Boy, he's lucky it didn't swing around more. One thing I do know about these Porsches is that that pendulum effect of that engine so far back can be a killer, but he caught it. So we come back live now. Oh boy. Let's go to the lead, because remember I said it was a second? Look at the gap now between Terlica and Perez. Well, this is not good news for Terlica.
Watch Ben Perez get really late on the brake going through sunset. Ben and able to make it stick, hug that inside line. Did a nice job on corner exit. Let's take a look and see how close he is and his lap time's coming at the line. Terlica with a 55.9 and Perez with a 55.3. So Perez is definitely hot-footing it right around this track right now.
And half a second quicker, and Terlica, he might be hot-footing too, but in the wrong ways, because he had another big off coming off the exit of turn 1. It is now down to 0.4 of a second. Let's stay on this, but just to note, we're seeing more and more drivers come in for their scheduled stops. Derby, Thacker, they're both in. Vargas has come in and out. Kita is in and out. Broaden has been in and out. I wonder if we'll see any of these drivers elect to try and come in.
And you know, Joe, with these two battling, this is going to help Modoff close in a little bit. When two cars start battling, it really actually slows them down, not really speeds them up. So they got to be careful. So Perez need to get by Terlica very quickly in order to pull away from Modoff.
Yeah, again, once again, Modoff is Perez's best fan. He, like you said, wants to watch them race side by side, not only so that he could help close up. Of course, no driver ever wants to see bad things befall their rivals and wants to race them on even ground. But I'm sure he won't be too sad if Perez and Terlica wind up actually running into one another and giving him the position, giving him the lead, if anything.
Yeah, no driver wants that to happen, but secretly in the back of his mind, he's kind of pulling for it. So it's going to be quite interesting to see what happens if the top two start battling for the lead.
There you can see the gap from second to third, and it's much closer from second to first. Perez doing all he can. Is he looking to come in? Yes, he is. Ben Perez maybe trying to pull some strategy himself as he enters the pit lane, and he's followed by Karl Modoff.
Karl Modoff doing the exact opposite compared to Terlica, coming in one lap earlier before Terlica. That's going to help out maybe a little bit if Terlica does not have a good pit stop.
Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. I put you in the shoes of Modov a number of times. Let's put you in the shoes of Derlicka. Do you respond? Do you pit this lap? Do you stay out?
I would be pitting this lap. If your competition is already on pit road, you need to respond immediately and try to keep him behind you. So Derlicka definitely needs to be coming down pit road this time. I will be shocked if he does not come this lap.
Order does not change between Perez and Modov. They exit as they entered. They're in 6th and 7th. They should retake 2nd and 3rd, depending on where Derlicka comes out once he takes his stop. Got a lot more cars in. Maxi Sorella has pitted. Carini has pitted. They're both coming out. The only drivers we're waiting to pit are Francisco Montini, Danny Pinto, Federico Montini, so both Montinis, Whalen and Derlicka. We're now hitting the Jean Debien chicane and then working on Le Mans.
All right, this will definitely tell us if he goes off course again. He's got to be careful not to get over 3x because that will cost him a bonus point. So he needs to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to get that clean bonus point. We've seen him off so many times at this point in the race. Let's see if he comes in, though.
Yes, he responds.
Yeah, so he's been listening to you.
Now, William Whalen, on the other hand, unless he needs to come down pit road, he could. Well, actually, no, he's decided to pit.
And this might be the end of the pit window, actually, because here comes Federico Montini. So does Pinto and the other Montini. That's going to be everybody. We need the cameras on Ben Perez. He's coming up to Sunset Bend. He's in Sunset Bend right now.
Derlicka's off.
Perez is out of the corner. He's speeding down the front stretch. Derlicka's past the cones. He's coming into turn 1. Ben Perez coming up to the first corner, but it was not successful. I'd say Derlicka, if anything, extended his lead with that pit stop.
Yeah, he had a very good pit stop, was able to extend his gap over Perez, but Modov, though, has closed the deal back onto Perez with that pit stop.
Yeah, so cone to cone, Derlicka about 2 seconds faster and sitting in the pit stall a second faster. Just all around, the strategy of the number 97 is so solid, it's just almost impenetrable. Meanwhile, back down in 8th spot, this is Francisco Montini and Michael Derby, who find themselves battling within the top 10.
Derby trying his best right now to close in the gap as they come out of the hairpin. Derby's been having a good run here tonight as he started in 10th position, as he's now only gained 1 position throughout the race.
But
so he's been working hard on it. Yes, that's a very good thing. Having a clean car is very important at a track like this.
Well, I'd agree with you. He's had a very good race. He's gone up 1. He's taken care of the car. And now he's got a good opportunity to take another. Francisco Montini just ahead of him. Francisco is the one, really, if anything, having a bit of a miserable race. He qualified in 6th. He's sitting in 8th. And is certainly not looking like he's about to move forward as now they come up to Ullman. The current situation, we said we'd keep you abreast, is frankly pretty easy to figure out as far as the championship goes. Jesper Derlicka is still set to win this thing. And one thing we haven't mentioned yet this whole season, it is his, or not this season, this race, I should say. This is his rookie season in the American iRacing Tuesday Series for Jesper Derlicka, and he's going to win the whole shebang.
Got a good battle for the 4th position. Christian Eisler was able to close the gap on William Whalen. They're now making their way over towards the Gurney Bend.
Whalen just... Yeah, he hasn't seemed to have the pace this race. He's already 10 seconds back from the car in 3rd, Modov, and 13 from the leader. He's usually had good pace, but as we look at him being chased down by Eisler, he's not been on it.
No, and Eisler riding on the momentum from his win last round at Sonoma, trying to make sure he keeps it up to get ready for the next season. So a good finish here tonight would help him boost up as they get ready for the new season in a few weeks.
Yep, Eisler looking at the top 5 at the very least. He qualified in 4th, so more than anything, he's actually trying to get the spot back that he started on the grid. He's got about 12 minutes to do it in that Ferrari.
Oh, Daniel Pinto goes a little off-road.
So, I think we got something happening with 14th, Sorella and Vargas. Actually, not just those two. It's those two plus Takeshi Kita. We were watching them before the stops. They found each other after the stops. And now they're starting to be joined by... Oh, no, this is a lapped car. That's Gary Schilling behind them. So he is not in this race in that green and black Ferrari you see in the background.
Got to give a big round to Gary Schillings and that green and black Ferrari. Always coming in and week out. Just making sure he runs laps and just has a good time out in this series. So got to give a little love to that number 17 Ferrari.
Yeah, and you know, I would give him the Dory Award, but he's easily beat by both James LeBlanc, who is 6 laps down versus Gary's 1, and Hugo Galaz, who is actually still continuing in 7 laps down. Oh, we had an incident. Daniel Pinto in turn 1. Daniel Pinto, did he spin on his own? It looks like he did. But boy, this could have been very bad because this is such a fast corner, Taylor.
It is. It's very difficult, especially if you missed your brake point. You can easily lose the car through that corner. I've seen it time and time again, whether it be on iRacing or on real racing. It's just ridiculous of how you can easily lose the car when you think that corner you can go flat out when you really cannot.
And you can see he managed not to hit the wall and get it going, but unfortunately for Pinto, he is down to 11th now.
Battle for P2 right now. Perez and Modoff are side by side. They're making their way down towards the Ullman Straight.
Into Jean Debienne, and he think he's got it done, but will he get some payback?
He gets loose!
Perez, oh no! And Carl Modoff nearly spins the car. He manages to keep it out of the wall, but that fight for second has now turned into recovery drive to see if he can solidify third. Oh. Well, I'm glad that he didn't get damaged, but man, it's so disappointing. He was keeping the hopes alive, I think, until that moment. As we come back live, that gap, which was roughly about 3 seconds, is 11 between Modoff and his championship rival, Derlicka. I mean, I know you've got to always fight and keep going, Taylor, but I have to feel like at this point we have to say that Modoff probably isn't going to take this unless something completely unforeseen happens to Jesper.
Pretty much, because right now, right behind him, he has William Whalen and Christian Eisler closing in as well. So, like you said, unless something very drastic or very severe happens to Derlicka, pretty much you are going to be seeing Derlicka winning the championship here tonight.
It is 8 minutes to go. As a once famous baseball player says, it ain't over till it's over. And right now, the checkered flag has not flown. So, we cannot crown Jesper Derlicka yet, but it is looking more firmly in his grasp by the second. Meanwhile, we jump back here to, is this Sorella once again, it looks like? Fighting off Vargas and Kita.
Yeah, Vargas is dipping his nose out a little bit, playing a little bit of a mind game, letting him know, hey, I'm faster than you. Let me by, but Maxi is doing his best to keep Vargas right behind him as they come out of the hairpin. All three drivers nose to tail. Real good fight between these three.
Yeah, credit to Maxi. I have to say that the Hispano-American driver has been pretty calm this race considering the pressure he's been under every time we take a look at him. As we ride on board looking over the splitter, excuse me, diffuser. For some reason, that's the one part of the car my brain just cannot wrap itself around every time we put the cameras on it. The diffuser. Working their way through Bishop into Jean Debienne. And they're going to stay in order. 14th for Sorella, 15th for Vargas, 16th for Kita. Kita started this race in 18th, and he's not pulling his usual trick, Taylor. We're used to him managing to climb his way forward, but just doesn't seem to be as effective here at Sebring.
No, it seems like maybe something with the setup doesn't quite work for him here at Sebring, but still it's putting a excellent show, working his way as best he can. He has gained a couple of spots, at least 2 at the moment, but he's going to try and work on his teammate Vargas as well as get by Maxi.
Well, this battle doesn't seem to be getting much hotter at the moment, so let's give you a quick rundown of our top 10 on what has been happening in case you're just joining us. This is our leader, Jesper Derlicka. He is our championship leader as well, so with the win, naturally, he should take home the championship if he finishes where he is. He is being followed by Ben Perez. He started in second. He lost that for a moment, but he's back up in a second. It is 2.5 between himself and Derlicka, so doesn't really seem to have the pace to try to challenge him. And then it's recently a mistake for third-place driver Karl Modov, who has dropped off significantly, is just trying to salvage a podium, even if he's going to lose the championship to Derlicka. William Whalen is the car you can see following him closely. He's been very fast lately. Ever since that half spin for Modov, he's been chopping away at that gap. He's also being followed by top 5 driver Christian Eiser. Last round's winner has been having a solid race, although he's not looking like he's going to take win number 2. What's the next 5 looking like, Taylor?
Right behind him in the 6th position is Federico Montini, having a decent run. Not having a little bit of issues early in the race, but still was able to recover. Behind him is his brother Francisco Montini. The team has been putting on a good show here tonight with good points battle for the team's championship. Behind him is Michael Derby in that 388 Porsche. He's been running inside the top 10 pretty much the entire race. And then I would have to say the biggest mover of the race is that 027 Porsche of Thomas Ellison, starting from the 19th position to 9th position. So an excellent run, and as he works his way by Hugo Gallard's lap car. Behind him, rounding out your top 10, Mr. Consistency, Aaron Thacker, started in 12th, worked his way up to 10th, putting on a good show, racing with his 2 teammates of Ellison and Derby.
There's your top 10. Didn't really see much in the way of changes during that. We are down to 4.5 minutes left to go. One of our closest battles we mentioned was during that, and that is between Modov and Whalen, as Billy has been doing what he can to try and see if he can get on the podium instead for the final race of the season. And again, really, when you're racing this in this sort of situation, Taylor, I can't imagine that Whalen has much in the way of sympathy from Modov. He's probably going to overtake him at the first opportunity.
Of course, yes, that you know that he is battling for a championship, but also you realize that you also have a race to try and finish well or win. So William Whalen, even though he knows Modov's in the battle for a championship, will still apply pressure to Karl Modov if given the opportunity.
Well, Modov is replying to that pressure since it was about half a second not long ago. He's upped it to nearly a second over Whalen. Getting those afterburners back on. Come around to complete another lap. I want to say we're down to 3 laps to go. Is this right?
Looking like...
Oh, 2 laps to go. I've been also seeing Christian Eisler blinking a bit behind Whalen. That's happened a couple times there as Whalen goes off around turn 1. No harm, no foul. That'll not be fun if Eisler does catch both of these drivers and attempts to pass.
Ooh, Derlicka gets a little bit loose in the hairpin.
And that's, again, Ben Perez not too far behind. About 1.3 now. A couple more mistakes like that, and this lead could be under threat. It won't change the championship. But you know that Ben Perez is going to do everything he can to try and pry that away from Jesper. In fact, it is now down to 1.1 between them. Ben Perez is a-coming.
Ben Perez goes off track.
Well, that a bit more than 1.1. In fact, 1.8 now between himself and Derlicka. So all that hard work pushed a little bit too hard, did Ben Perez.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say before he went off course a little bit, he was actually about 0.3 faster than Derlicka that last lap by. So he was definitely closing in. But it looks like with those mistakes, that's going to hinder him just a little bit.
And I think this will be white flag this time by with about 155, 156 laps. Indeed, white flag is coming out for Jesper Derlicka. Had a bit of a scare as his gap went down last time. Now it's gone back up. You can breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief. What a season it's been for the Texan. He came out swinging, won the very first race of the season. No matter what, he's going to have the most wins this season out of any driver. This could be number 6 out of 10, more than half. That is quite a stunning record. He was pushed the whole way, though, by Karl Modhoff and his consistency. And Jesper Derlicka in this number 97 car did it once again with a little bit of fuel strategy, having a nice short stop to help him stay out there less. But yet still, despite that, Taylor, he seems to have better pace than almost anyone, even when he's saving fuel.
Yes, indeed, and that's something that he's worked really hard on throughout the whole season. We know how hard he works with his setups as well as with testing to try and maximize as much as he can to perform well on the track. And as we can see this season, he's definitely outperformed the field.
You really just can't discredit Jesper. He, like I said, has had such a strong performance. He is, I keep making that comparison to Dixon, but it's more apt than just the fuel. He's had great results, only a few really moments where he's shown any sort of weakness. And while the gap has been cut down to 1.2 to Ben Perez behind him, it's looking like another one is going to be notched onto his belt. So in his rookie season, as he comes through the last corner of the final season of 2018, your rookie champion, overall champion, is going to be the number 97. Jesper Derlicka wins here at Sebring and wins the championship. Modhoff is going to finish on the podium in third. Whalen and Eisler are going to make it a run to the line, but I think Billy is going to manage fourth. Just barely ahead of him at the line. Not a whole lot of battles going on throughout the fields. Federico Montini going to get 6th. Francisco 7th. Michael Derby with a nice run to 8th.
Ooh, it looks
did
like
Ellison just... What happened?
Ellison looks like something happened to where it gave Aaron Thacker the move to 9th.
He'd run out of fuel, or do you think he actually gave it to him? I kind of wonder if he maybe sputtered to the line. Well, Maxi Sorella going to take 17th. And with that, the last of the field is going to cross the line. Your new champion is going to celebrate. But we are going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. On your screen during the break, you're going to see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Sebring International Raceway. It may be gloomy skies here physically, or at least virtually, I guess I could say, but it is certainly brightness and sunshine for our winner of this race, because not only did he win this final round, he's won the championship unofficially. We should point out, although we don't see any really obvious reason why it should be taken away from him. Jesper Derlicka, your new champion, going from third to first out here and taking his sixth win of the season. Ben Perez, he was winless in his season in which he has to hand over the crown, but still, second place, not bad. Carl Modoff, a late race mistake cost him chances to maybe take the fight back to Jesper. He still gets a third, even though he started on pole. Billy Whalen, he'll finish in fourth, coming from seventh. How about that for a climb? And Christian Eisler takes fifth. Federico Montini with a sixth place finish right next to Francisco Montini. They started next to each other as well. Then Michael Derby, of course, taking eighth, and Aaron Thacker from 12th to 9th. And the driver that really impressed us from 19th on the grid to 10th at the checkered flag, Thomas Ellison, rounds out your top 10. Taylor?
Finishing in the 11th position, I'm pretty sure he's ready to put this season behind him, Daniel Pinto in the 969 Porsche. Behind him will be Cristobal Valenzuela in 12th, Jean Carini in 13th, Takeshi Kita, he did manage to come out of nowhere a little bit, gain some position, finishing in the 14th position. Behind him will be Lucio Vargas in 15th. Justin Hall will finish in the 16th position in front of Maxi Sorelia. And then Karsten Quint, 18th. Pete Mabroten in 19th. And Gary Schillings in 20th.
Last two drivers on the field, unfortunately, had some issues at the start. James LeBlanc, 21st, 6 laps down. Hugo Galaz, 22nd, 7 laps down. That said, let's focus on some more bright stuff, including our winner, Jesper Derlicka, who we believe unofficially is now your champion here in 2018 Season 4 of the American iRacing Tuesday Series. Jesper, congratulations.
Oh, thank you guys so much. It was a really great season out there. It's first season in the league. We just ran that Ford just so fast all season. Yeah, Ben was a great competitor, but coming out on top, it was really great this season.
Oh, man, you impressed us. 6 wins out of 10 rounds. It's almost impressive that it was as close as it was, because you certainly showed that you are one to watch out for as the seasons go on. I assume you'll be back to defend this crown, right?
Oh, definitely. I think I'll keep driving the Ford. Maybe if iRacing adds a few more GT cars, it'd be great to have some more cars maybe. But I'll tell you what, the Ford drove great. Had a lot of all that Fords in official races, so it was really great to pull out the victory here in this great league.
Now, tell us about how the race progressed. You qualified in third. Pretty quickly, you seemed to dispose of Perez, and then likewise, you were able to drop Modoff like it was nothing. Was the qualifying a little off for you, or was everything kind of maximized and you're just better at race pace?
Yeah, I had some pre-race jitters, maybe a little too much caffeine, but I was a little nervous. Big championship race. Woo! We got that race going. The blood started pumping. I got really good. I'm really good at Sebring. Really love Sebring, and Ben, he was a tough competitor. It was great to get around those guys and pick up another one for me this season. A great way to finish it off.
Absolutely. Nothing better you can ask for. Before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to thank for the whole season?
I got to thank my mods on Twitch, especially Checkers or Wreckers. He's a great mod. He helps out with my stream when I'm busy. And everybody in my chat, and you guys for broadcasting and Precision Racing League for putting on the league. It's been a great league. I can't wait to be back next season.
We can't wait to have you back. See if anybody can try and challenge the Scott Dixon of PRL. That was Jesper Derlicka, your new champion and winner here today. Up next, we have our outgoing champion, appropriately in second place today. Taylor's going to talk to Ben Perez.
We're here with Ben Perez, and Ben, a really good finish for you today and a way to cap off the season. Tell us how your race was here tonight.
Oh man, it was fun. I'm a little disappointed that I couldn't get Jesper, because I do think I could have gotten him, but the one mistake coming out of I don't even know what the corner's called, but that one corner with the dirt on the outside. Anyway, if I hadn't have made that mistake, I think I might have been able to catch up to him. But oh well. I mean, it was a great season. It was a lot stiffer competition. It was super fun. So pretty good race for me overall.
Yes, indeed. So now that you have to pass the torch in a sense to Drlica, what is going to be your focus coming into next season?
Well, unfortunately, I'm going to have to say that I am not planning on running next season. So Jesper's going to have to carry the torch and see where it goes.
Oh, well, we'll definitely be missing you from the PRL series. Is there anybody you want to thank before we close?
Definitely want to thank all the guys over at Team Bushfink. They've always been super supportive with all of our drivers. Also, definitely want to thank and shout out to Craig's Setup Shop because they've always been making really reliable sets that I've been using here on on the PRL series. And want to thanks to the organizers for making this league. I've been in this league for a year now. Actually, I started in the last season around this time of year, and it's been a pretty well organized series. So props to the organizers, and of course, thanks to you guys for putting on the broadcast. I'm sure it's been a heck of a season this season.
Well, we're definitely going to miss seeing you race here, Ben, and look forward to seeing whatever endeavors you do next year.
Thanks, guys.
And that was Ben Perez. So, Joe, I got to say, this season has by far been one of the best seasons of the PRL.
Yeah, I was really impressed with how things have gone, how the championship stayed so close. Would have liked to see it be a little bit closer coming into the final round, but that is how racing goes sometimes. We're trying to see if we can maybe get a talk to third place driver Carl Modoff. We can understand if maybe he's a little disappointed and maybe not in the mood to talk, but we're seeing if we could sway him into our ready for interview room. But oh, man, after every race, I was left looking at the situation on the championship and the strange stats that we were getting, the way that Carl Modoff actually had the first race this whole season, we should say, that was not a first, fourth, or a sixth that he finished. What a very strange stat that he had going all the way into the last round where he finishes on the podium, but not in first for the first time. I guess you could say he managed, the only time he showed up on the podium this whole season was in first place. So the number 48 driver is kind of hovering around. We're still seeing if we could kind of sway him over and see if he'd be willing to come and talk to us a little bit about how that race went. He worked so hard to try to see if he could keep himself in it. He managed to get himself on pole, get himself that bonus point, and then end the race at Taylor. It seemed like it was almost the reverse of Drlica, where he had the qualifying down, but he didn't have the race pace down.
And that seems to be the biggest problem for Modoff during certain points of the season. Drlica just had outright pace once he got up into the front of the lead, compared to Modoff, to where sometimes if he fell back, he could not.
And it looks like we've got Carl Modoff. So let's pull him in and talk to our third place driver, second in the championship. Carl, I'm sure it's a little bit disappointing, but it seemed like you gave it your all tonight.
Yeah, it was a little disappointing. You know, I was pretty much mathematically wasn't going to win unless something happened to Jesper, and I wasn't expecting that to happen. So I just wanted to win the race and kind of go out with a bang at least and get ready for next season if I can make that. But yeah, not a lot of time to practice this week as, you know, everyone's got lives and are busy too. And just got caught out on that curb pushing a little too hard at the end. And yeah, that was kind of a bummer. I wanted to have at least a nice fight for the race there.
Yeah, we sadly caught that moment on air, and we were a little bit sad to see the fight go out of it at that point, since up till then, it seemed like even though you had been passed by Jesper, he wasn't really stretching away to a huge lead. You guys were keeping him in check.
Yeah, I mean, as Jesper said, I was also pretty nervous at the start of the race there and popped up on caffeine. So yeah, the front of the race we were all kind of making mistakes and building gaps, and kind of they were shrinking. And then I thought I'd figured a few things out there at the end right before the pit stops, and then after the pit stops too, I just changed my line a couple of places and found some time. So I was kind of reeling them back in, and I thought there was a possibility I could catch him, but you know, he ran good, and I made a mistake there over the curb, which won't do that again. That's easy to say now, I guess.
Yeah, hindsight 2020, but we've asked both of our other podium finishers. Jesper says he's returning to defend his crown. Ben says he's handing over the torch and letting you guys duke it out. What about you? Are you going to give it another go? See if you can do anything about Scott Dixon Jr. up there.
Yeah, I plan on running the next year, and luckily I wanted to give a shout out to my family and my fiance Sarah. They all watch every week, and it's really awesome just to have support for something like this. And they actually pitched in and got me an early Christmas gift so I can get a new computer, which will run the game a lot better. Because I'm running on a laptop with a broken screen right now, and its memory is full. So next year I'm getting a sweet hardware upgrade, and I'm really excited to come and give it another shot and try and knock Jesper off the top there.
Well, that makes what you did all the more impressive. Real quick, before we let you go, anybody else you want to thank before we close up shop today?
I just want to thank the race organizers. You know, it's really professionally run, and then you guys at GSRC who do the broadcast. It's really cool to have something like this, and it brings a whole nother element to the game, which makes it more fun than just hopping in a random server and then racing against the same guys every week. So, I look forward to it every week, and I just want to say thanks to everyone that puts the.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate the kind words. Commiserations on losing out, but still a second place in the championship, an impressive feat in your rookie season. That was Carl Modoff, our third place finisher tonight, second in the championship. We're going to close up for the season, but hopefully we should be back soon. We also want to thank the Precision Racing League, and we are in talks with them to broadcast next season. So we do expect to be back. It has just not had paper signs quite yet, but signs are looking good that we will return. Also, thank you to the sponsor all season long, SIMMSA. You can find them at SIMMSA.net. That is the Simulation Motorsports Association. Not only, don't just check them out to go and see their products, but give them a big thank you for being so kind as to providing help to make sure that this series had this season broadcast. But boy, what a season to watch. Also, thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Taylor, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including our upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. We have lots of upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Make sure and have a happy Thanksgiving to all of those in the U.S. because, it's Thanksgiving week here over in the States. But until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.